Last Saturday I did my top 20 Oud fragrances video. You guys mentioned a fragrance so repeatedly that I left off. Well, I planned that video and I planned to do this video because I felt like there were some Oud fragrances that were a lot easier to wear and didn't belong on that list. And as I said, I was planning an easier to wear Oud fragrances video, and I find these fragrances a lot easier to wear. The fragrance that kept coming up was Initio's Ood for Greatness, but as I said, I have 12 total fragrances here that I find very easy to wear. So if you're into the idea of wearing Oud and you find it a little challenging, then this particular video will feature 12 fragrances, including Initio's Ood for Greatness as one of the easier to wear Oud options for you. So if you're curious to learn what they are, please stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian with Smelling Great Fragrance Reviews. Yes, easier to wear Oud fragrances. And if you haven't caught that video from last Saturday, please do. And tomorrow's video is going to be focused on incense. I haven't done an incense video for the longest time. It's been almost 3 years. And so I did the last one with Dahlia. Unfortunately, we can't get together, so I'm doing one. So stay tuned for that video. And as I said, if you haven't caught the other Oud video, please do. But before I get to the 12 fragrances, if this is your first time tuning into this channel and you still haven't subscribed, please do click the subscribe button below and also click the bell so that you'll be notified for future videos and giveaways. That's right, easier to wear Oud fragrances. I find all of these Ouds or Oud fragrances very, very easy to wear. Again, if you're opposed to the idea of Oud, these might not be easy for you. But I feel like these are great starts if you wanted to educate your nose to appreciating Ouds. All of these Ouds here are synthetic, at least they smell synthetic to me. And there's the Western Ouds and of course the real Middle Eastern Ouds. The real stuff is very expensive, can be animalic. And these are the Western Ouds and very synthetic and very easy to wear. And that's what I think. But as I said, if you have a challenging time with Ouds, please double check these before you buy full bottles. Buy samples and decants before you jump into a full bottle. Let's get started. And I'm going to put at number 12 Initio's Ood for Greatness. And the way I'm ranking this list is the easiest one's going to be at number 1. The least easiest one is here. And even though I find this one very easy for me to wear, there's that whole Baccarat Rouge 540 thing happening in here. And in the end, I don't know if this is really Oud. It doesn't really have an Oudy quality. For me, it's woods and saffron mostly. Saffron has a leathery undertone or leathery qualities. It's lots of woods. It might hint at Ouds a little bit, and they call it an Oud. It's called Initio Ood for Greatness. But for me, I don't really get a lot of Oud. But I find it to be an easy to wear Oud. And again, I'll keep mentioning this throughout the video. If you have a challenging time with Oud, get a sample before you buy a full bottle. But I really like this for the fact that it's a great woody, slightly Oudy, leathery saffron Baccarat Rouge 540 kind of experience. It comes with a great bottle. And I love to wear it. It smells great. I feel like it's perfect for fall and winter. And those of you that were commenting last Saturday and asking why I didn't feature this one, now you know. So here it is at number 12. And the list is composed of expensive fragrances and less expensive fragrances. There are some budget fragrances. But in the end, a lot of designers are here. And a lot of very popular Ouds that people call like Ouds. And again, these are all Western Ouds, and there's no real Oud in these fragrances. At least I don't smell the real stuff. Doesn't matter if they're synthetic, they still smell great. And number 12 is Initio's Ood for Greatness. So the next fragrance I'm going to feature in this video, I've got little, I have strips that I've planned out because I have so many fragrances. When I plan out a video, I have to smell everything and I have to rank them by smelling them. I can't wear them all, obviously, but I have worn all of these fragrances. So at number 11, I have Bottled Ood. So this is a fragrance I bought, and I actually did a video on it, and at the time I didn't really appreciate it, but it kept growing on me over and over again, and now I really love it. And again, it's a synthetic Oud, a Western Oud, and it's actually something that is the Oud version of the original Bottled. And I wore Bottled back in the late 90s. A friend brought me a bottle from Germany, because Hugo Boss is a German brand, and I fell in love with that fragrance because it smelled warm and spicy, woody. One of the best fragrances. I should buy another bottle because I don't have one for a while. But this one is actually, as I said, it kind of was funky to me at one point, but it really has grown on me. You should go check out my comparison video. And what I like about this one is the whole apples thing in connection with the oud. It kind of like doesn't soften it up, but it makes it a little easier to access if you have a challenging time with oud fragrances. So oud meshed with apples. There's some cinnamon, of course. The cinnamon is signature from the original fragrance. The apples is as well. Sandalwood. There is lots of saffron here. There's some cloves, citrus notes, papyrus, and labdanum. So there's a little bit of an ambery quality, but in the end, it's oud, a Western oud, and I feel like it's great. Slow to really enjoy it, but I have embraced it, and as I said, I just love the combination of the apples with the oud. But it is here at number 11. I'm using my experience of the fragrance when I first obtained it, so it might be a little challenging for people. I don't know. If you guys are fans of this one, let me know. Of course, I know you guys are fans of Oud for Greatness because a lot of you were requesting it from me, which here it is now. But moving on to number 10, we're going to the House of Maison Margiela Replica Collection, and it is called Across Sands. So this one is a fragrance that features lots of oud, lots of spices, lots of dates. So there's patchouli, there's some Immortelle, there's some Labdanum. So I put this at number 10 because, as I said, it's getting easier and easier for newbies to appreciate this oud thing. If you haven't ever started buying or wearing oud fragrances, this will be a great list for you to come back to. And I've got different price points, as this particular fragrance is around $200 for 100 ml. I don't really see discounts, but Boss Bottled is discounted heavily. You can find that for 100 ml for about $50. Initio's Ood for Greatness is over $300. So as I said, I'm covering different price ranges here. And this one, just like the previous one, I feel like take out the apples and add dates, and it also has some spices in here, of course. It does say spices. I pick up some cinnamony kind of touches, maybe a little nutmeg, and it has a dry quality. And in the end, I feel like it's fairly easy to wear. There's not a lot of challenging notes in here, but in the end, it is also oud, so you got to embrace oud and enjoy it to wear it. So I like this combination. It's ambery, it's slightly fruity, but more kind of a ambery, gummy kind of an experience because the dates are not necessarily kind of like fruits that you can crunch into or bite in. Well, you can bite into dates, but I'm talking about a textural thing, and the dates give me more of an ambery quality mixed along with the labdanum note, which is basically amber. So check out Across Sands from Maison Margiela. It's fairly easy to wear, and just, you know, get some samples or decants if you want to test it out prior to jumping onto a full bottle, because in the end, it can be a little challenging if you've never worn oud before. Now on the channel, I have various fragrance review videos, or just videos in general, lists and things like that on oud. You can watch a lot of those. You can just do a search for oud and find them. I've covered many different grounds and just done tons of videos on this topic because it's a very, very popular note. In the end, it's a wood. It's a it's a wood. It's a woody note, but it could be resinous and balsamic experience. And here in this video, as I said, these are all synthetic ouds, Western ouds, and they're a lot easier to wear than the real stuff, which is actually a tree that gets moldy and it's harvested, so it's very, very expensive, just like ambergris is when they have to, like, you know, find ambergris washed up on shores and things like that. So it's a very, very expensive item. But these fragrances here are Western fragrances, and they're much less expensive to wear. And for example, this particular fragrance from the house of John Varvatos, it's Oud, and I've put this at number 9 because I find I dropped this bottle a little while ago, and I find this particular fragrance easier to wear. And you know, a lot of these are in my designer fragrances video, and then there's one or two that I'm going to talk to you about that might be getting discontinued, and I'll bring it up when I'm seeing the fragrance that comes up. But what I like about this one is it's very oody, Western oud again. It's slightly smoky. There's some sweet touches with myrrh. There's some tobacco, cinnamon, leather, labdanum, cypress, rose, black pepper. So in the end, it can be a little challenging, but I felt like it was not as challenging as some of the other fragrances. It does have a little bit of a subdued quality. It doesn't scream too loud. But that makes things like that, or fragrances like that, I feel like are easier to wear, rather than if it's really loud, it could be a little challenging. I hope that makes sense to you guys. But it's a pleasant fragrance. The other thing I was also trying to do was to leave off rose in the fragrances today. There are some rosy touches this one has, but they're very light. It doesn't really like take over. In other words, it's not like a rose and oud combo fragrance. And so in the end, this is a pleasant fragrance. It's all about oud with resinous touches, balsamic touches, incense, myrrh, tobacco, cinnamon. There's some leather, there's some labdanum, so it does have ambery touches, and there's some spices and things like that. So check out John Varvatos Ood. Next up, going to the house of Goldfield and Banks. We're talking about one of the fragrances that I think I did review this on the channel, called Wood Infusion right here. So Wood Infusion is exactly that. It's an oody woody experience with some aromatic touches of lavender, and there's oranges. I feel like oranges balances out fruits, and citruses balances out oud and makes it a lot easier. And I find that this one tends to be a little easier because it has a pretty prominent dosage of oranges. But in the end, it's mostly about oud and lots of wood. So if you like fragrances woody, I feel like this is a great fragrance experience to check out. The orange adds just kind of like bright, sunshiny quality, because oranges in the end are citruses. They can be tart, but mostly it's a combination of sweet and tart together. So I find that to be a very balanced smell in comparison to something like lemons, which I feel like would clash in this fragrance. Oranges do balance out the woody and oody touches. There's some iris, there's some amber and musk in here as well. In the end, it's a very, very pleasant fragrance. As you can see, I've worn quite a bit of this one, and I really like it. And I like the touches of the ouds and the woods together. It works great. So that's Wood Infusion from the house of Goldfield and Banks. Next, going to the house of Atelier Cologne, which is a great house. Recently, or several years ago, they got acquired by L'Oreal. But this is Emerald Agar. For me, this one is quite potent. There's a light rosy touch in this one as well. As I said, it's not about the rose, but there is a light rosy touch. And this one actually also reminds me of Jo Malone's Oud Bergamot, which actually is on this list further up. But I feel like this is a slightly rosier but more intense version of Jo Malone's Oud Bergamot. If you like that fragrance, you might want to try this one. But this one is very easy to wear, I feel like. The bergamot really does balance out the oud here. There's some papyrusy touches, there's some aromatic geranium, there's some woody touches of sandalwood, there's some gaiac wood, some black pepper, and of course the rose comes in as well. And the rose in here does remind me of rose. They have a rose fragrance, anonyme, rose anonyme, they have a fragrance. So that rose in there. Whereas that one's more about rose with oud, this one's definitely more about other things with oud, and rose comes in. But a great scent. I really love it. It does also hint lightly at Straight to Heaven. I don't know if you know that fragrance. I'm sure you do. But kind of similar in the ballpark of those kind of fragrances. Emerald Agar. Very easy to wear oud. Check it out. Don't forget, don't buy full bottles. Buy samples if you're going to sample at home, or go to a store and sample it there, obviously. All right, so this next fragrance is a fragrance called Versace Ood Noir. And this one I put here is because I just find it to be a great fragrance. You know, it's one of the similar fragrances to the Boss. I had bought this and I've had it for quite some time. It wasn't one that I was drawn to a lot, but it kept coming back to it and really appreciating how great it smells. This one's a combination of oud, saffron, black pepper, cardamom, olibanum, patchouli, bitter orange, and neroli. But when I smell it, I pick up lavender, I pick up lots of sandalwood, and I also pick up a little bit of coffee. So it's a very interesting fusion of notes to remind me of those smells, even though they're not listed as notes. For me, it feels like it's a less expensive version of Oud Wood from Tom Ford, which is also on this list, coming up soon. But it's less expensive, and it's very easy to access. Again, this one is targeted to men. a few fragrances I spoke to you about today are targeted to men, like the John Varvatos and of course the Boss Bottled. But ladies, if you like masculine fragrances, test them out and see what you think, because Tom Ford's Oud Wood is unisex. At least I think it's unisex. Initio's Oud for Greatness is unisex. Emerald Agar from Atelier Cologne is also unisex. So if you can, wear fragrances like that, this one should be something you can also wear as well. It just is leaning more masculine than a few of the other fragrances that are unisex targeted. But it's a great scent. It's interesting that it happened to me, that it grew on me more later, and I appreciate it now a lot more than when I first bought it. Does that make sense to you guys? Does that ever happen to you guys if you ever did a blind buy? You bought it, you got it, you were like, oh, okay, that's what that is. I'll put it behind something and forget about it. But I've come back to it and I've really, really appreciate it. I love it. So Versace Ood Noir, it's a great scent. Check it out if you don't know it. Now this next one is the fragrance I was going to tell you about that I think is being discontinued. It is a sad day. I don't see it on YSL's website anymore. It says it's sold out. I'm talking about Ood Absolu from the house of YSL, M7 Ood Absolu. And M7 originally came out in 2001 when Tom Ford worked with YSL, and they discontinued it and brought it into a collection of fragrances in these kind of bottles. In fact, on the channel I have a video on YSL's men's collection of fragrances. Go check that video out. And this is a male targeted fragrance, but I feel like it's a very unisex offering, a very, very unisex offering. So this one has Oud Patchouli, Myrrh. Lots of myrrh in here. It's a sweetish kind of resinous balsamic note. Mandarin orange comes in again. It just tones down everything, makes it a lot more accessible, softens things up a little bit, and then labdanum for ambery touches. But it's a pleasant scent. I feel like it's a sad day that they've done this. A lot of these fragrances in this collection are not on YSL's website anymore. Now it could be that they just run out and they don't have any stock with it. But I think it's discontinued, so check it out. I did see bottles online for around $80, so it is an 80 milliliter bottle, but I think it's an easy wear fragrance, especially with oud in the notes. And if you haven't tried it, you should definitely try it. And if you like what you smell from a sample or in a store, if you can get it in a store, then buy yourself a bottle, because I love that whole combination of the bright orange, mandarin orange, with the myrrh that sweetens things up, and the oud and the patchouli together. Great scent. Anyway, M7 Ood Absolu from the house of YSL. A wonderful fragrance. So at number 4, I've got Tom Ford's Oud Wood, which is this one right here. I should show you like that. And this is, I think, one of the easiest oud fragrances that you can get. It's so easy to wear. It is oud and rosewood, lots of woody touches, of course, sandalwood. And what I like about this one is all those notes, the oud and woods. It's nicely fused, or it's fusion of cardamom. As soon as I put my nose to it, I get cardamom with lots of woods. The oud doesn't really act like real oud. Obviously, it's a synthetic oud, so it's easier to wear. But again, it could be challenging to some noses if you've never really experienced oud and you've been wanting to. But I feel like this is definitely one of the easier ouds to wear from designers. And if you're looking to explore oud finally, you can definitely use this list as a start for your oud adventure, because these definitely are a lot easier to wear. They're not as challenging. And there was one fragrance I was going to feature called Gucci Guilty Oud. In the end, it had rose, but I was testing it out and wearing it. And I was not noticing cumin before, but I noticed cumin in that fragrance. And I had to leave that one out, not only because it had rose in it, because this list doesn't feature oud and rose, but also the fact that it's cumin. But this one is not challenging at all. You just have to appreciate oud, the very Western type of oud, and also patchouli. You also have to appreciate rosewood, sandalwood, and cardamom. And I think that's pretty much it for this particular fragrance. It's a great scent. I think it's also very fall appropriate. So if you don't know, do check this one out. Again, test with samples first. Don't buy a full bottle, because you might not like it if you don't have much experience with oud, as I said. Only 3 more left, guys, and this fragrance I think is also kind of being on its way out because the brand has launched another fragrance that features oud, but this time with roses. But this is just Vince Camuto's Oud. A very, very easy fragrance to wear that features oud. It's so easy to wear that I love this one. This one has aromatic touches, also has lots of woody touches, slight leathery undertones, but it's all about oud, pink pepper, saffron, nutmeg. There's some light geranium-like touches in here as well, and then some musk. Very, very easy to wear. You can currently find it for about 50 bucks for 100 ml. And their other fragrance, the smoked oud, is rosy, and also tonka beans, I think, is what's prominent in that oud. So if you like the rose oud thing, you can check that one out as well. In fact, I have a comparison video of this one and that oud fragrance from the house of Vince Camuto. But I feel like this is a great alternative to an expensive Tom Ford Oud Wood. It's similar in style, not identical. It's a very westernized oud to wear, and doesn't really, like, you know, go into the challenging direction, if that makes sense. So check it out, Vince Camuto Oud. I think it's a great fragrance, and if you can get it for 50 bucks, it's totally worth it. That is at number 3. So at number 2, I am going to feature Jo Malone's Oud and Bergamot. Very, very easy to wear, and the fact that this is also an eau de cologne, an intense eau de cologne, I think it doesn't have the, you know, intensity and things like that, so I feel like it makes it easier to wear. There is a smokier touch in this one that might put off some people, but I feel like the citruses of bergamot, in addition to oranges and lemons, should soften things up. It doesn't wear very strong, but upon initial spray, it might be a little smoky on the oud side. But other than that, I think it's just a great scent. It's oud, cedar, bergamot, oranges, and lemons. Wonderful fragrance. Check it out if you don't know it. It's very, very easy to wear. And but you know, those the Jo Malone fragrances you can easily test. A lot of stores carry Jo Malone, like department stores like Macy's. Some Macy's is, but Nordstrom's definitely has the entire collection. You can go sample them. All right, number 1. Is it really an oud? It's called something oud, but does it really act like an oud? I had to feature this here, and some of you did mention that. Why did I leave this one off? For me, it's not really an oud, but it's called something oud. It's Creed's Royal Oud. It's one of my favorite fragrances, and it's actually my favorite Creed fragrance, but I don't get much oud from it. Light, light, light hints. What I love this fragrance for is the cedar. It's a fantastic cedar smell. With bitter galbanum, angelica, sandalwood, pink pepper, lemon, bergamot, musk. It's so, so good. It is my favorite Creed fragrance. Fantastic fragrance from Creed. Creed is not my favorite house, but there are some fragrances, some of their discontinued or shelved or vaulted fragrances are awesome, but this, it still sells. I mean, it's part of their collection. I think is a fantastic fragrance. What I like about it is it reminds me of back home. The cedar smell in here is so good. It just reminds me of cedar trees and smoky ashtrays. It's a very, very easy to wear oud fragrance because I don't find much oud in this. Now, smoky ashtrays might turn off some people and might be a little challenging, but as far as oud goes, I don't think it's very oudy personally. So that's why I feel like it's at number 1, because it is much easier to wear. If you're looking for an oud fragrance that's very easy to wear, that's Royal Oud from Creed. Let me know your thoughts on these fragrances. What do you think about them? And if you have a very easy to wear oud fragrance, also put a comment down so I can find out. If you have these fragrances, what do you like about them? If you like the sound of these fragrances that I've spoken to you about today, what do you like about the sound of these fragrances? Let me know, put some comments down so I can find out. Other than that, guys, thanks so much for watching today's videos. If you have any questions or comments, please list below. Stay tuned for tomorrow's top 20 incense fragrances video. Other than that, please like this video, please share it, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.